Should I?
Oh, you're good. We're actually live now. But all right, y'all. So hey, y'all. Today is Wednesday. Like I said, my days have been blurring together with this whole lockdown and everything that's going on. But all right, y'all. I have Nurse Hughes here with me. I'm so excited about this interview. I'm actually going to give everybody just a few minutes to come into the room as a notification goes out, because it usually takes a second for people to just come into the room. But as y'all are coming in, just let me know you're coming in. We're gonna ask Nurse Hughes a lot of questions today about some of the things that she has been seeing on the front lines. Which, it always helps to know from a direct perspective, opposed to just seeing everything on the news, because, I don't know if you've seen any of my stuff, but I'm a little skeptical of the people on the news, okay?
Yes.
But hey, Black Introvert. Hey, Jupiter. Hey, DJ Moss. Hey, y'all. Just giving everybody a few minutes to come into the room before we get started, because this is going to be some good stuff. I have some juicy questions for her, and maybe y'all can wait in too. But all right, Nurse Hughes, so can you just kind of go ahead and introduce yourself, tell a little bit about your actual position, title, just a little background if you want to do that.
My name is Serena Hughes. I've been a nurse for 6 years. I work in an emergency room in Los Angeles at a small community hospital. I also have experience in dialysis and skilled nursing care as well.
Okay. So you work in the emergency room. That's correct?
Yes, I do. That's
okay.
correct.
So there's been this coronavirus that has been going on actually, we're learning that it was possibly here at the end of 2019. What are your suspicions about that? Working with people, had you already been seeing these symptoms previously?
We definitely have been seeing these symptoms way before we've been notified about this disease. I even had friends that were actually hospitalized late December, beginning of January. I've seen a lot of people being hospitalized for what we would call an atypical pneumonia, which is abnormal pneumonia. And since we didn't have anything to test it and to diagnose it with, we would just diagnose it as an upper respiratory infection or viral syndrome, because basically you didn't have the flu that we were able to test for. You didn't test positive for that. You didn't test positive for respiratory virus syndrome, which is RSV. So basically we would just label it as a viral syndrome. But I've seen cases, and we weren't protected back then. We did not have masks on. We didn't have PPE. So I've seen cases back in late December and January.
So around that time, how was it affecting your coworkers? Were y'all having a lot of staff out saying, oh my God, you're having respiratory issues now too? Because respiratory issues are, you can't transfer respiratory issue to another person, correct?
Yes, you can.
You can? Okay.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You could transfer it through droplet, which we would call coughing and sneezing, or sometimes it could be airborne, which is not as heavy as a droplet precaution, and so it makes it more easier to catch because it's lighter and can spread out further. Droplet, you're looking at about 3 feet apart, but airborne is even further out.
So it's not an actual flu or a virus.
It is a virus.
Okay, the respiratory infection is a virus. The upper respiratory
infection is a virus, yes.
Okay, and so were y'all seeing, how was it affecting your coworkers at that time?
At that time, I mean, we would probably just see people calling out because they're sick with the flu. Mm-hmm. I mean, what we thought was the flu or cold-like symptoms, we didn't know, we couldn't diagnose it. So people would call off of work. I mean, but it was flu season. So anything between the end of September or beginning of October to March, that's flu season.
So do you remember if you guys were at that time as you were diagnosing people with upper respiratory infection, I think that's what you called it, right? Were y'all just giving them medicine to treat the symptoms and sending them home? What were you doing at that time?
When it's a viral infection, if it's not a bacterial infection, we tend to not give out antibiotic treatments.
Okay.
So we'll just like the flu, we will not give you an antibiotic treatment to treat the flu. We'll just tell you to treat the symptoms. So like over-the-counter medications, if you're in pain, Tylenol, or if you have a fever, Tylenol, to reduce the fever. Basically, if you have mucus or like if you cough, get cough medicine, stuff like that. So we'll tell you to treat the symptoms, but there was no actual like medication that would give you. That's why we can't even get.
Say that last part again. You went out a little bit.
Oh, that's why we don't have a medication for this. That actual, how can I say it, sure thing to treat this COVID thing, because it's a virus, just like HIV is a virus. So they just, they don't have a cure.
Right. So at that time, do you remember also having these very bad breathing issues, lack of oxygen, to the point where people were being put on the respirators?
We always see people, coming in needing ventilators, and we would think nothing of it. We'd think like, it's respiratory distress, respiratory distress syndrome. They probably would have what we would consider walking pneumonia or something like that, they would need it desperately. So back then, it would just be like, it wouldn't be, how can I say
you weren't on high alert for it because you weren't told about, now it's the coronavirus, right? So I can see that. I understand it. So you probably just, it wasn't as noticeable. It would just be maybe more just routine, like, okay, this is what the patient needs, so this is why we're doing it, as opposed to, this is coronavirus. These are the list of things that we usually do when it's a coronavirus patient. Okay, I understand it. So, a few weeks back, it's probably even been a month or two now, there was this nationwide call for PPE. Oh my God, doctors do not have PPE. What are they going to do? They're running out. We're sending them into the rooms with no mask, no gloves, all of that. What was your experience at the beginning of that when we were seeing those national calls for that? And what would you say? Is it better or worse or the same now?
I would definitely say it has not gotten better.
Okay.
I have, when we first started, our hospital was like, we are protected, we have it. But like, they were so confused on what personal protective equipment, which is PPE, to use.
Right.
So like, at first, at the beginning of March, when we first heard about this, it's like, only wear a surgical mask when you are going into a suspected patient's room. And then we couldn't wear it in the hallway. Then it went to, okay, well, wear a surgical mask at all times. When you're in the hallway, when you're working with all the patients. Then it went to, okay, well, the frontliners, which is like the emergency room nurses, since we don't know what these patients have, we're going to give you an N95 mask. But now with this N95 mask, you have to wear it all day.
Right.
Saying we should have been doing that. Like, I believe in overly doing something and dwindling down, because this is why we have employees now testing positive for COVID, because you guys weren't protecting us at the beginning of this time.
Okay.
Now it's like you get one mask per week. We work 3 to 4 shifts per week.
Are they taking y'all mask? Are they taking y'all mask at the end of your shift and saying they're going to wash them?
No. Well, other hospitals said that they're doing that, but us, no, we just save it in these little paper bags with their names on it or whatever. It's insane. These masks were designed for one-time use. One-time use, not multiple uses, and not to be worn all day.
Right. And so what was your initial reaction to just understanding, how transmissible this virus was and coming home to your family?
Yeah, I have a 2 and a 4-year-old and my spouse. So My anxiety was like through the roof at the beginning of this. I didn't know if I should come home. I didn't know if I should isolate myself from my family. I had a lot of coworkers that was just getting Airbnbs and hotel rooms. I had a doctor that was sleeping in his like garage, you could say, away from his family because they didn't know how this is going to, get to your family. So I was extremely anxious about it. So I would have an area in my house that I strip off all my clothes. I have a disinfectant that I use for my scrubs, put it in hot water, and I shower immediately. So my spouse knew to take the kids to the room before they could even touch mommy. Mommy has to go disinfect herself. And then I was like afraid of even kissing or holding my kids often because I was afraid of giving it to them.
So what about now? Do you feel now that we're kind of weeks into it, do you feel a little bit more confident? Because I have some friends that work in the medical field, and some of them, as time goes on, they're a little bit not as anxious as they were initially.
Correct. And I'm not as anxious as it is. I do believe in building your immunity. So like my children, I give them their multivitamin, I give them airborne, I give them their vitamin C, as well as it's called elderberry syrup that they have for children that has zinc and vitamin C in there. So I give that to them on a daily basis, to build their immunity. I also give that to myself. Oops, sorry, my computer.
You're good.
So I also give that to my self as well. So and then like I don't know, I feel like since it's been like 2 months and I've been working in the ER and I haven't, seen it with my kids or whatever, I do, take our temps quite often to see.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this. So let's get to something that I've personally been waiting to know. How I originally found you was you commented on a video where it was a nurse speaking on the behalf of her friend, and the nurse was talking about how a lot of doctors and nurses are just doing a horrid job. They're not, nobody's there to advocate for the patients, how the patients are oftentimes really just being left alone to die and things like this. The first thing I want to ask you about are the ventilators. There was a huge call going into this initially for ventilators. We come to find out now that possibly more than 80% of people that are going on those ventilators are dying. I've seen some doctors making videos online saying that ventilators were a bad call. They're not being used properly, and they're possibly not the right solution for this type of virus based on the symptoms that you guys are seeing. What are your thoughts on that, and what is going on with these ventilators?
Okay, so when this thing first came out, our natural reaction is if a person has a low
oxygen
level or blood gas level, which is a low O2, and you're hypoxic, your body showing that you're hypoxic, immediately will definitely ventilate you. That's our automatic response. That's what we're used to doing.
Right.
But as a month or so goes on, and because we don't know this disease, these doctors don't know this disease. There's still research going on about this disease. No one knows what this disease is and what it does. So with that being said, we made the mistake of we didn't make the mistake because this is what we know, but yes, we were immediately putting people on ventilators. But now, out of all the people that we ventilated at our hospital, only 2 have survived off of these ventilators. So we're realizing that these ventilators are actually damaging or causing more harm than good, because it's causing pulmonary edema in these patients. Because what this thick mucus is doing, is causing the positive pressure that we're giving through the ventilators to go to the healthy tissue and causes that to be swollen. So that's causing it to do more harm than good. So I have seen a decrease in ventilation in the ER.
That was my next question.
I'm sorry.
Based on this information, have we adjusted? And one of the things that I did not see and did not see coming from the media that was very bothersome to me, and why I'm happy that you're here to talk to us today, is because the media never really retracts those stories. They're never going to give us the new adjusted information like they did with the information that they used to just hit the ground running. Even with the lockdowns and we just need to hit this curve, and it's like, okay, have we made the numbers? Like, we're not. It's still a lot of fear mongering and misinformation that's going on from our mainstream media that I do not appreciate. Now that I'm finding people in my family, people that I know have the coronavirus, and I'm seeing online ventilators are killing 80% of people, but the media is telling you something different. How can I explain it to my family member when I'm not a nurse? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a politician. So they feel like, what do you know? You know what I mean? But I'm like, this information is there. Y'all have to be open and willing to find it. You see what I'm saying? So that's very bothersome to me. And I have been talking about this whole ventilator thing for a little bit because it's been eating me up. But I get a lot of pushback. So I'm happy to have you here. And I'm also happy to know that y'all are actually pulling back.
Yes. The doctors at my hospital are pulling back from what I see.
Okay, good. And was that or do you even know, was that based on some type of call from the WHO? Was that based on what the doctors at your...
I don't know what it was based on, but I know that, like, in the past few weeks, when we would see patients with low O2, I even told one of the doctors, I'm like, are we going to intubate her? What are we going to do? He's like, no.
So let me ask you this. What are y'all doing now opposed to the ventilator, since we know that it's having kind of like an adverse effect on the patients?
High flow oxygen, which is like through a nasal cannula. We can't necessarily put them on, like, it's what we call a CPAP or BiPAP, which is a positive pressure mask.
Okay.
Oxygen, because what happens is it causes it to be airborne, which puts us at risk.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, our emergency rooms at my particular hospital doesn't have negative pressure rooms that you would put a patient that has an airborne disease in. So we just try to get them on a high flow oxygen. We can't even give them like breathing treatments except for like albuterol, like meter dose inhaler while they're in the emergency room, until we get them into isolation room. So it's a catch-22 with this disease. No one knows what this is.
I get you. Let me shout out my super chats real quick. Thank you, Black Introvert. He said this is a very important convo. Thank you so much. Tassetti, here we go. Tassetti, thank you so much for the $10. And Go Saints 2345 for the $20. Thank y'all so much. And then, of course, if you have any questions, you can also super chat those as well. But yeah, I just had to find out about those ventilators. Also, was something you were seeing, because there was such a big call for ventilators? Were you possibly knowing that people were being intubated too quickly initially, because the ventilator was kind of like the knee-jerk reaction?
I mean, like I said, it was just an automatic reaction that we have when we see people with a low O2 and having difficulty with breathing. That's just what we did in the past.
Okay. What has been the visitation for COVID patients and being able to have people to advocate on their behalf?
That's the problem. We're not allowing no visitors, and unless you're a minor or a person that needs, we call it guardianship. Person has a guardianship of the person, like if it's an adult that has mental disabilities or so forth that requires a guardian, then that's the only person that we could allow into the hospital. But adult like me and you, we will not be able to have no visitors. So
In your opinion, is that affecting the quality of care that patients possibly are receiving? And even, I mean, that, okay.
I don't feel like it affects the quality of care because sometimes, coming from a nurse's perspective, visitors can be internet thugs, I guess you could call it, that will Google something and claim that they know something, and it disrupts your care for that patient and the other patients that you have. So
I can understand that. So what about some of the non-invasive and maybe other treatments that I'm hearing about? We have people recently talking about hydrochloroquine, vitamin A, C, and D, zinc, azithromycin. You now even have some people suggesting possibly UV treatments. Have y'all used any of those treatments? Talked about them? What are your thoughts on them?
UV treatments will cause, radiation, which will go to causing people to be at risk of catching cancer. So no, I have not even heard of that, nor have we thought about doing that. But what we have been doing was the azithromycin. At the beginning, I could say about 6 weeks ago, we were using hydrochloroquine, but I have not seen that lately. I have heard that's doing more damage than good, so I have not providers prescribed that. We are prescribing zinc, vitamin B1, thiamine, and vitamin D.
Okay.
Vitamin C as well.
And what type of results are you?
I see that the problem working in the emergency department is I stabilize and we admit.
Okay.
But I mean, we are seeing more people recover versus dying.
Okay, that's good. I've also saw that nurse that I was talking about, the video that we both saw online. She was saying that a lot of doctors were not resuscitating out of fear of spreading the virus. What has been the protocol for handling those situations?
Whenever somebody was in full arrest, our automatic response was just to go in and do start compressions, without a mask or proper PPE prior to this. Now it's make sure you have your gown, gloves, and mask and goggles on prior to even touching the patient. But if the patient's it depends on if the patient's a full cold. It depends. I haven't seen nobody just like a doctor just not outright not resuscitate a full cold patient.
Right. Okay.
All depends on the patient's status. Like if the patient's a DNR, we do not. I mean, that's their wishes.
And then explain a DNR to me.
Do not resuscitate. Those are advanced directives that a patient would sign with the doctor and a lawyer, or with the doctor, that these are my wishes. If this happens to me and I need this type of treatment, do not resuscitate me. Okay. So our full cold patients, I haven't seen a provider just outright say don't touch them.
Okay. Now something we've been seeing is the media is the fact that Black people and other minorities are in very high numbers as far as the representation of the hospitalizations of coronavirus. Based on your experience and the people that you've seen coming through the ER, would you say that's a fair statement or a fair representation of what, based on what you've seen?
Question again?
So we've seen in the media that Black people are dying in really high numbers from the coronavirus compared to all other groups of people. Black people being almost like the face of this virus at some point in the media, right? And other minorities as well. But it's really been a focus on, Black people. Based on who you've seen just coming through the ER, would you say that that's a fair representation of the number of people you've seen being hospitalized due to the coronavirus?
I don't think I'll be able to answer that question fairly because I work in a predominantly Black neighborhood. And
Okay.
predominantly Black people that come through the emergency room. However, I mean, my hospital is in a lower income part of Los Angeles. And I think the reason why they're saying that we do represent a higher number of that is because we do as a whole lack the understanding of healthcare and preventative care. I feel that our community needs to be better educated on the access to healthcare, because what I do see is that a lot of African Americans ourselves come into the emergency room and don't even know that we have underlying conditions. Some people don't even know that they're diabetic, don't even know that they have a liver disease or hypertension and so forth. So a lot of people don't go to the doctor to, get routine checkups. So that's probably why we're seeing higher numbers in our community.
That's understandable. In your just personal opinion, do you believe that it is possible for this virus to be a bioweapon? I'm asking you some tough questions. I'm sorry. I was ready for this interview. I've been waiting on it. So,
I've been having.
If you want to answer it in the best way or however you're able to do.
I have some providers that don't believe that. I truly believe that this is a bioweapon. I just don't believe the theory that was placed out there that someone ate a bat in another country and affected the whole entire world. I personally don't believe that. I mean, because if it was like that, then Ozzy Osbourne would have affected all of us back when he bit that bat's head off in a concert. So, I mean, like I said, I don't know.
What do you think about so seeing everything you've seen in the ER so far, based on your personal opinion that you think this is possibly a bioweapon, do you think that the social distancing measures are appropriate based on what you've seen? Do you think they're too little or too much?
I mean, we're still seeing numbers. We've all been isolated for however long it's been. I mean, this is a disease that's going to be part of our daily life now. Staying in isolation, I mean, I just feel that if we are going to be out of quarantine, that they need to make sure that we are adequately prepared to treat, because we are going to see a rise in numbers. I mean, once we get out of quarantine, it's just inevitable. But, I mean, this disease isn't going anywhere.
So you say
because like Wuhan was locked down for 76 days,
where
it originated from, and so now they're back out of quarantine, and now we're seeing a rise in numbers. I mean, it's just disease is not going anywhere. So I don't know if we could remain in hiding until when.
Right.
But make sure that our hospitals are adequately staffed. Make sure that we have adequate PPE. Make sure that we're prepared for the rise in numbers.
Okay, I understand that. That's a good answer. What do you think about the state and federal response so far? Do you think that every state should have, because like you said, you're in LA, you have NYC, y'all have done some really high numbers, have kind of been, particularly NYC being the epicenter of the coronavirus. Do you feel like the national lockdown in response was justified, or do you think it should have been maybe handled state to state?
I think it was justified nationally. I mean, because you just can't have one state lockdown and people still traveling to other states, and then spreading it over there. Because you still have people traveling from New York and going to other states that have low numbers. I mean, people are asymptomatic. There's people that don't have no symptoms, so you don't even know how they're spreading it. Like, it's just, I think it was necessary at the time to get a handle of things.
And so what about now? Do you feel like we are prepared to reopen? Georgia recently reopened. I think Texas and Florida, possibly, if I'm not mistaken, but I know we've been talking about Georgia a lot. But what do you think about reopening? When will LA or California be reopening, and what's your thought?
LA is supposed to be like opening up actually this Friday, like retail stores just for like pickup, like curbside
Okay.
pickup or whatever, but not to like be in stores. The ideal was May 15th or whatever. It's gonna be hard to keep people indoors, especially in Los Angeles when the sun's out. Like it's not gonna happen. But I think we need to be smart. I think you should still wear a mask. I don't think we should be out there without a mask. I don't think we should be going like, we should still have like 6 feet when you're inside the store, or I don't think that what I seen in Georgia, I just didn't believe it until my sister showed me a link of people standing outside of a mall waiting for Jordans or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
that was ignorance at its best.
Yeah.
So not only are we fighting this disease, but we're fighting ignorance as well. But anyway, so I feel like, we should be smart about it. I feel like we should definitely wear a mask when you're in public, until we feel like we really don't even know how this is transmitted. These researchers are still up for debate if this is a droplet or airborne. We don't know.
How long would you think those social distancing measures should last?
I really don't know.
Would you say possibly maybe until a vaccination was available?
I am not the nurse to sit here and ask about vaccinations, because I tend to not believe in all of them.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because that's my next question.
my kids won't be getting that.
That was literally my next question. I was literally about to ask you, when the coronavirus vaccination comes out, would you and your family, including your children, be taking it? And your answer is no. What's your position on that? Why would you not be open to taking?
I mean, this vaccine hasn't even been out long enough to even be tested. You don't know the side effects of it. You don't even know if the vaccine works. Like, we don't even know if these test kits are accurate. Like, I mean, I could go on about this or whatever, to be honest. So no, my kids will not be in that vaccine. I won't be in the vaccine. I didn't even get the flu vaccine this year. I don't believe in those.
And I'm glad you said that. My next question is, what are the steps you have to take in somewhere like California? Isn't it mandatory there for vaccinations in particular fields, like the schools and the hospitals or something like that? How are you able to maneuver around it?
As a nurse in the hospital, which I don't care, we have to wear a mask all day if you don't have the flu vaccine during like the months of October to March. I'll wear a mask all day. I'm not getting it. So like they try to make it uncomfortable for you, but like you're not mandated to take it. So
you don't have to do any paperwork or anything saying this is religious or anything.
You have to sign a waiver that I refuse to take it. You have the right to refuse.
Okay. I did not know that.
It's like these public schools are making it mandatory for like the measles vaccination and stuff. Mm-hmm. My kids received those, but as far as like this flu vaccine, no.
And so, at what point would you possibly be open to taking a coronavirus vaccination if they said, "Oh, well, it's been on the market for 5 years now"? Do you think at that point you would be more open to
having studies to see if vaccines are causing autism? So, how long have these vaccines been out? I mean, no.
Do you know I never meet nurses that actually talk out about vaccinations or give any pushback, and
then go with the grain, because this is what we're taught. This is
exactly.
This is because I told you so. This is what we're going to do.
Exactly. I'm like, some of the stuff, like, I get it. We want to be safe. We want to be protected. Like, I get that, right? And we want to do what's in the best interest of the community and these different things. But I'm like, if you just use your own brain for 1 second. If you got the vaccination, like if I had a vaccination, you telling me yours not gonna work? Like, that just, some of it just never, I don't know. It just never made sense to me. And then my sister, Like, we never got the flu vaccine. My mom just never took us to get the flu vaccine. The 3 years, every time my sister had to get the flu vaccine for being a teacher, they told her, you have to get the vaccine. And now she's gotten the flu every single year.
Yes.
I'm like,
sick. I used to get sick from it. That's why I quit taking it.
and if I say that to these nurses, oh, well, she probably, it was just, she was going to get it anyway. I'm like, can you just be honest? Like, for 1 second, it's just me and you talking. I'm not going to snitch to the medical board on you, okay? You know, but yeah, so I can really appreciate that. Those are all of my questions today. This was really insightful. Really helpful. I think the last thing, I can't remember if I asked you, but you have some people out here that have symptoms, right? But they're really scared to go to the hospital because it's like, if I don't have coronavirus, I might come out of the hospital with coronavirus. At what point would you suggest, okay, this is when you definitely need to see a doctor? Don't just quarantine. Don't just stay at home. You need to go to the ER or see some type of professional.
That's the problem. See, like I said, as a Black community, we're not educated about different levels of the healthcare system. A lot of people come to the emergency room that could have been, taken care of by their primary provider.
Right, right, absolutely.
Or by their dentist. Do not go to the emergency room for an abscess on your mouth or your gum. Go to the dentist. We can't do nothing for you. Look for some antibiotics and send you to the dentist. Anyways, if you don't have insurance, there are free clinics out there that have primary care providers that pay on a sliding scale. Right. So if you have any type of symptoms, go to your primary care doctor. Then they will instruct you what to do from there. They can see they're now doing visitations via like Zoom or something like that. Yes, where you don't have to go. But we haven't seen people that waited. I had a guy that waited. He was having dizziness spells for 3 weeks, had a hemoglobin of 3.3. Extremely anemic. Could have died if he waited any longer. We had to do a massive transfusion of blood. So, like, if you feel sick or have any type of symptom, reach out some way.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Nurse Hughes. Was there anything else that you wanted to add?
I mean, wash your hands. I mean, be smart about this disease. It's real. Whether you believe it or not, whether you feel it's bioterrorism, whether you feel like it's the government doing whatever, people are dying.
Right.
But primarily older people, but people are dying. So wash your hands, wear a mask in public, and be safe.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. You don't know how much I appreciate that. And I'm sure all of the viewers watching, we have 57 people in the chat right now. And I know people are coming in and out. And then we're going to have people viewing this at a later time. So this was really helpful and informative. And I really appreciate that. And as a nurse, you being willing to talk about things you've seen, some that don't necessarily match the mainstream narrative, and we need that. We appreciate that, and that's exactly why I reached out to you. But thank you so much. Thank you for everybody in the chat. Thank you for everybody that super chatted, and we are out of here. Y'all have a good night. Bye.